That's my understanding of the matter. Councillor Lee, if you could expand on that further, and then I'm going to go back to the
if it is the case that there are works which you feel don't need to be done, please do highlight those, because the Barnet Homes officers will tell you I'm the first person to go off when they tell me we're spending X million pounds on health and safety. So it's only because of the reasons that Councillor Thompson outlined that these really are works that have to be done. For health and safety reasons, even if there's only one person living there, it still has to be done. But if there are specific instances that you can highlight to Barnet Homes, please do bring those to Barnet Homes' attention and copy myself in. And then we can see, because if there's an opportunity to not spend that money, then great. I will be the first one supporting you on that, but our hands are tied with regards to health and safety legislation. That's what we have to do on some of the works.
Well, again, health and safety, it does make me laugh. I mean, the way in which you're classifying is that you need to get done straight away. It should have been done over 18 years ago. So for the last 18 years, you have left us in an unsafe and dangerous manner. So to somebody turn around and say, now we need to do it, should have been done 18 years ago. And what is even more laughable is the fact that you've only brought it forward because it was expanding over another 25 years, so it wouldn't have been done until 2035 that you was expecting to rewire this estate. That's over 30, 60, that's twice the period at which it's gone past its safety life. How can you possibly say that you're doing this for health and safety reasons when you're already 18 years past the safety date at which it was supposed to be done? And you wasn't programmed it in for another 18 years before it was going to be done.
Absolutely.
Yep. The system correctly, if I'm wrong, so I can't comment why something wasn't done 18 years ago.
Your responsibility to comment.
8 years ago.
But what I can say is the reason why we're now particularly paying attention to the electrical works is following, and also correctly, the fire we had at Upper Forces, which then sparked a review of all of the properties. Now we're in a very difficult situation because the tests that we've done on West Hendon, and where I can't remember the exact names, I think one is visual and intrusive tests, so one is where you look at it and then you sort of do a bit of digging, has shown that the cabling is, to my understanding, basically shot. It's starting to melt and some of it is fused together. Now the problem is, now that we know that, there's two options. One, we pretend we don't know that, and then if there is a fire, there are very serious complications, not only for the individuals who could potentially suffer health impact, and then the liability of the council, but we then, the other option is we have to act on that. And if your justification is it wasn't done 18 years ago, so you don't want it done for another 25, it's a bit difficult because now it's raised. We have to deal with it. Can you see the predicament we're in as well? Which is why we're then offering these discounts and saying we're both in, to a degree, I don't want to phrase we're both in it together, but both parties, the council and the residents, this is an unexpected issue. We're dealing with it as best as we can. We're trying to be as transparent on it and keep you as informed as possible. So that's actually answering the question. I've got my own copy here, so I can't quite track it across for you at the moment, but it is answered. I've got it on page 6 of my copies, but it will certainly be towards the early half of your questions, where it actually sets out the work that we've done. Apologies, I can't find it for now, but it is in there.
I think you mistakenly with some of the case what you think.
How long ago are you?
Okay, some members will comment anonymity, but it's Councillor Rouse, we have for 3 years ignored.
I know, it's just...
Yelling and shouting, so let's continue. Let's tonight do the same.
Chair, you're asking to pay attention instead of playing on Twitter or whatever.
Councillor Rouse, we could pay attention.
I paid for attention, thank you very much.
So
it's question 7. Sorry, the answer is. So, I think that was...
Thank you. Okay, next question, please.
Well, hello? Okay, when you finish with your Twitter, please. Thank you.
I'm just looking at you, see what you're...
Well, I'm here, so you don't have to look me up.
Come on.
Yeah, right, this is the health and safety. But the health and safety has only come in is because the maintenance hasn't been maintained. Now, leaseholds have been paying for the maintenance of the blocks, and you've had what was known as the electrical company or companies who was constantly maintaining these cables, which they clearly haven't. It was then sold over to, or was passed back to the council, because those little companies was then swallowed up by the big electrical company, who in part is actually doing the revaluation works now. So they walked away from what they should have been doing, was maintaining, and the council should have been monitoring this, because they're paying our money for this maintenance, which was not kept up, clearly not kept up, because it should have been raised 18 years ago, and we've been at a 6-year period by the regulations that all those cables should have been changed. Now, at the end of the day, with these cables, it is only the ends which are of severe problems. The main money of it is fine. It's only where they've had the weathering or been out exposed. Again, where the leaseholders are, or where any drainage is, they've had a lot of exposure because the cupboard doors were broken. The utility companies who own those cupboard doors refuse to mend them year after year. That's why some individuals, including myself, had it passed indoors. So that cable is quite fine where that connection is. Again, down where the mains cupboards are, where the main problem is, which got me to, they were constantly exposed. They wasn't kept locked up properly for health and safety reasons. They was not maintained properly. They was not monitored properly over those 18-year period. So you failed on your maintenance program, you failed on your monitoring program, therefore you failed on your safety program. And now, 18 years down the line, you want us to cover the costs of which we've already paid for, and for the lack of work which was already should have been done. And that's just the electrical one. And I can raise the same issue on every item which you have billed us for.
So, Councillor Davies, so the service charge that has been paid by leaseholders over this period of time, what has that been spent on? I'm sure it hasn't been spent on staff. And also, what is the involvement of the utility companies in this as well? If there's an accusation there that they've been neglecting in their duties, could we not claim perhaps some money back from them? And then lastly, what is the true extent of this repair? I'm sure we wouldn't be going through all of this if it was just a little bit of wire that's exposed. So, over to you.
So the first one I'll deal with this point first is the involvement of the utility companies. I will pass over to an officer to give a more detailed answer on it, only to say that when I first found out that we were liable for it, my exact questions were along your lines as to why the hell wasn't the utility company doing this, because that was my understanding as well. So I'll pass over to officer on that one. In terms of the point which Councillor Thomas alluded to at first, and I think your issue on the maintenance. So whether the work is done today, or whether it was done 10 years ago, 5 years ago, leaseholders will have been billed for it at that point in time. So when you pay a maintenance charge, that money is spent on maintenance. Now, if the situation that you're articulating is, let's say a wire, for argument's sake, using your example, wasn't maintained 5 years ago, that means you weren't billed for maintaining that wire and the works involved in maintaining it 5 years ago. So whether that work happens today, one point in time, 10 years or 5 years in the future, the charge will always be passed on to the leaseholder. So if you didn't receive the charge, work wasn't done, the net impact to yourself will always be the same. Does that make sense?
And could I also, probably this is for officers, we do have 3 minutes left for public questions. Could I just ask you briefly to talk about the state of this repair? Because obviously leaseholders are really, it's not actually a big problem, but we're not doing this work for nothing, are we? So could you elaborate, please?
In terms of the ownership of the cable, that for a number of years has been unclear, and the UK Power Networks have clarified that situation.